Okay, today we're going to do a lecture on 5.1 and 5.2. Okay, first the daily quiz. Okay, write in scientific notation. 50,847. You need one number in front of the decimal, so 5.0847 times 10 to the what power? 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Positive 4. Okay, number 2. One number in front of the decimal, we'll move it to right here. 3.21. Oops. 21 times 10 to the what power? 1, 2, 3, 4. Negative 4, because this is a small number. Okay, 3.2 times 10 to the negative 4 times 5.3 times 10 to the negative 3. Okay, first you're going to multiply the numbers. 3.2 times 5.3, 16.96. Times 10 to the, what you're going to do is you're going to add, right? Because these are multiplied. So you're going to add the exponents. Negative 3 and positive 1 is what? Negative 4, positive 3. Negative 1. Okay, that's not scientific notation. You'll need to convert it to scientific notation. Do what? You need to put 1.696. Okay, when you move it one time this way, when we were moving it that way, it was positive. So we're going to add that one time we moved it. We're going to add that, add 1, because we moved it one time. Add 1 to the exponent. The exponent was negative 1. So negative 1 plus 1 is 0.
Do you need to have the 0?
You either need to have the 0 or not put times 10 to the 0 power, because this is like times 1. Anything to the 0 power is 1. It's not going to be times 10. Because that would be to the 1 power, not 0 power. Okay, when you're dividing, make it a little bigger here. First we'll divide the numbers. 16 divided by 4, 4. And when you divide exponents, since these have the same base, you're going to do the top minus the bottom. Okay? So we're going to have 3 minus negative 2, right? So that turns into plus 2, plus positive 2. So this converts to 4 times 10 to the 5th power. Okay, now we're converting to decimal. That's to regular numbers. 4.32 times 10 to the 5th power. So move it 5 times, or we're moving it to the right or left? Right. So 2 times, we'll need to add 3 zeros to make 5 times. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now put your comma to make it a number that you can read. Okay, and the next one is a negative 5. Same numbers, same amount of times, but we move it what? To the left instead. So we have 4, 3, 2 here. It was right here. To move it 5 times, we need to add 4 zeros in front of the 4. If we add 5 zeros, that'll actually help in a way, because that'll put the 0 in front. See, we move it 5 times, we'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You already have the 0 in front of your decimal. Okay? And that's it. If you at least got, let's say if you, because I know this was most of the ones you missed on the test. So even if you got 3 of these right, half of them right, give yourself a daily quiz point. Okay? And we'll go ahead and jump into the lecture. 5.1, we're being introduced to factoring. Introduction to factoring. Okay. If you have 2 or 3 terms, what you do to factor terms is you see what they have in common. Okay, so the first thing you gotta do is find the greatest common factor. First, you're gonna start out by finding greatest common factor. So if you have something like 2x squared and 2x and a negative 8. Okay, they don't all have x's, do they? This one does not have an x. So the number is the only part we can find a common factor in. 2, 2, and negative 8, what will they all divide by? 2. 2. So the GCF is 2. Okay, let's do another one. 8x squared, negative 4x, and negative 20x. Okay. In the numbers, what do you see that they all can divide by? 4. 8, 4, and 20, they all divide by 4. They divide by 2 also, yeah, but your greatest one is 4. So make sure you go with your greatest one. So that's why it's a G here, greatest. Okay, what else do they have in common? X. This has 2, this 1, and 1. So you have to put the 1 on there, because they all have at least 1. Okay, another one. Negative x squared, negative 5x to the 3rd, and negative 20x to the 5th. Don't worry about the negative part. Just do the common numbers. We have a 1 here, 1, 5, and 20. So just 1 really, right? What about the x's? 2, 3, and 5. The smallest is x squared. If you have something here like x squared, you don't have to put a 1 here, okay? If it didn't have anything else, you would put the 1, but the greatest common factor here is just x squared. Okay, let's take like this right here. Let's have it like without commas. This is actually like a trinomial. It is a trinomial. It's got 3 terms. Added and subtracted in between. Okay, to factor this, to factor out the greatest common factor, we already know the greatest common factor is x squared, right? Okay, we're going to put it in front. And then in parentheses, we're going to put what we would have to multiply to get this back. So we're actually dividing every term by this x squared. This term divided by x squared is negative 1. Because if you multiply this times this, you'll get negative x squared. Okay, the next term, what do we need to multiply x squared by to get that? Negative 5x. So if you multiply this, you'll get negative 5x cubed. Okay, how about this term? Minus 20x to the 3rd. Okay, let's do this one up here. Let's put 8x squared minus 4x minus 20x. Our greatest common factor was 4x. Okay, so we're going to put the 4x in the front. First term, what do we need to multiply it by to get 8x squared? 2x. Okay, what about the next term? minus 1. Don't leave it out just because it looks like it. If it's the same, you have to at least put plus 1. You have to put plus or minus 1, okay? And then this one, minus 5. And do we need an x? No, we already have the x. Okay? And if usually they don't have two things like this, I just added that up there where it would. The problem I was taking it from didn't have two x's here, so I put it in there because I wanted to have an x right here. Okay, let's see. Let's do one on the book. How about 6x to the 4th minus 10x to the 3rd plus 3x squared. Okay, first find the common factor, the greatest common factor. What do the numbers have in common?
3.
Nothing really. 1. Yeah. You wouldn't really factor a 1 out, so 1 is all they have in common. Okay, so what about the x part?
X squared.
X squared is the smallest one. They all have at least 2. Okay, so what's your first term? 6x squared, 2 is 4. Minus what? 10x, 1 and 2 is 3. Plus just 3? Yeah, you already have 2 x's. Okay? So factoring out the greatest common factor is not too bad, huh? Okay. Let's do where we're factoring out something they have in common. If we have 2x squared times 3x plus 2, then we have plus 2 times 3x plus 2. What do these two things have in common?
3x plus 2.
The 3x plus 2, right? So if we put it on the outside here, let's put it in parentheses, because if we put parentheses here, it would mean only the 2 was multiplied. If we didn't have the parentheses out here, the 2 would be the only thing that would be touching. So this whole thing is multiplied. Put parentheses around it. Okay, to get this first term, what do we multiply it by?
2x squared.
2x squared. To get the second term,
2.
plus 2. Make sure you put sign 2. Okay, let's do another one of those. 3x squared times 2x plus 7 plus 2x plus 7. Okay, what do they have in common? 2x plus 7. Okay, to get the first term, 3x squared. To get the second term, plus 1. Don't leave it out. You need 2 terms here. So there's 2 things up here. So you got to have 2 things here, even if there's no number there. Make sure you put the 1. Okay. Now we're going to go into factoring by grouping. We're going to have something with 4 terms. And we're going to, when it says to factor by grouping, this is on page 406. If it says to factor by grouping, you normally group the first 2 terms and the second 2 terms. Okay? So looking at the first 2 terms, if you were looking for a greatest common factor, what would you have here as the greatest common factor? 2 and 2x squared is the greatest common factor here. Okay, factor it out. 2x squared, what do you need to multiply to get the first term? X. And 3, right? Okay, when you're factoring by grouping, this part here should end up being over here also. Just like we had these two the same up here. When you factor by grouping, you need it to come out looking something like this. So we're going to look to see if we can have an x plus 3 here. Okay, putting an x plus 3 here, what would we put in front? Plus 1. They didn't have anything in common, it was just 1 in common, right? So you do have the plus 1, or you don't even have to put the 1 there. It'd probably be easier to put the 1. Then you'll remember to put it in the next step. Okay, what do they have in common? X plus 3. To get the first term, what are you going to multiply? 2x squared. To get the second term, do the plus 1. That's factoring by grouping. We better do a couple more of those, huh? Okay, let's do 12p to the third power to 3 minus 16p squared plus 3p minus 4. Grouping them, first two and second two. What do the first two have in common? The greatest thing they have in common? 4 and
P
squared, at least 2, right? Okay, to get the first term, 3 p, we do need a p, right? Minus just the 4, right? Okay, let's put 3p minus 4 over here. Okay, it's exactly like that. So what do we put in front of it? 1. They just had 1 in common. Okay, what do we have in common here? 3p plus minus 4. Oops, getting ahead of myself. 3p minus 4. To get the first term, 4p squared. Second, plus 1. One more? Okay. Okay, 18 x to the third power minus 21x squared plus 30x minus 35. Grouping, so what do? First 2, second 2. Underline first 2 and second 2. What do the first two have in common? 3 and
x squared.
X squared. To get the first term,
6x.
this is why you need to know your multiplications, huh? What multiplies and divides into things. 7 and no x, right? So put this 6x minus 7 over here, and it should come out where something multiplies to give you that. What do they have in common? 5. 5 times 6 will give you 30. 5 times 7 is going to give you that. So it's going to come out. And this will be a plus 5. Positive 5 times 6 is positive 30. This will give you the negative 35. So it's going to come out okay. Now, what do they have in common? 6x minus 7. For the first term,
3x squared.
second, plus 5. Okay? So those are coming out okay? You just have to do a few of them, and it'll get easier. Okay, let's factor. Going into 5.3 or 5.2, we're factoring binomials. That means it has 3 terms, right? And they're going to be of the type x squared plus bx plus c. That means there's an x squared term and an x term, and then one that doesn't have a number. Okay, if you're factoring x squared, let's do plus 1, plus 5x plus 4. Okay, this is going to factor into two binomials. You're going to have x plus or minus something and x plus or minus something. Remember when we had two things and we FOILed it, we multiplied it? Well, we're going to go backwards, and from what we FOILed and reduced down to, we're going to go back to the binomials. Okay? So what we need to do, we know the first times first when we FOILed. The x times x gave us the first term, so we know there's going to be x's in the first part. And the very end of it, remember when we did FOIL? We just did first times first. The last times the last gave us the last part. The two inside ones usually combine to make the middle term. So the last times last has to give you 4. How can you multiply two numbers to get 4? You're either going to have 1 times 4 or 2 times 2. Right? Okay, you need the two numbers that will add to give you the middle term. If there's a minus here, it'll subtract to give you the middle term. So the ones that will add to give you 5 are 1 and 4. That's a positive 5, so it's going to be a positive 1 and a positive 4. So if you actually FOIL that back out, you can make sure that it actually will work. First times first, x squared. Outside, plus 4x, right? Inside term, plus 1x. And then last times last, 1 times 4 gives you 4. See, that gives you the 5 right there. Okay, let's do the same one where the middle term, instead of being a positive, will be a negative term. X squared minus 5x plus 4. Okay, they're still going to, you have 1 times 4 and 2 times 2 to give you the 4. What's going to be our first terms in our binomials? X and x, right? Okay, they still add to give you a 5. So it's still going to be the 1 and 4. But you need a negative 5, so it's going to be negative 1 and negative 4. So instead of putting plus 1 and plus 4, we're going to put minus 1 and minus 4. Okay? And if you FOIL that out, it should come back to this, the same answer. But when you're factoring, this part is your answer. Okay, let's do one. Let you guys try it. X squared plus 8x plus 15. Okay, you either know it a little bit and you guessed at it, or you don't know. So the first term is what? And we could do 1 times 15 or 3 times 5. Which one's added to give us 8? 3 and 5. And it's a positive 8, so they're positive, right? So how many people got that? A few of you? Okay, so y'all caught on really fast. Okay, let's try another one. X squared minus 16x plus 15. Okay, what was the first term here? X. Okay, they need to add to give you 16. So which ones did you use? 1 and 15, are they positive? They're both negative because it needs to be a negative 16. So minus 1 and minus 15. How many people got that? A few more. Good.
You always put like the lower number first.
I always put 1 times, oh, that? No, it don't matter.
Doesn't matter if it's like
Wait, if you were doing your homework, checking your homework, and you had x plus 5, x plus 3, that's okay. If you had x minus 15, x minus 1, it doesn't matter. They can be in any order. I just do because that's the order I had them over here, but it doesn't matter. I don't know in the book, no. I don't think they have a specific way. I've never been told there's like a standard order you should put them in. Okay, let's try, let me show you one with the minus at the end, right here. You're still going to have the XX. How many ways are there to get 21? 1 times 21. 3 times 7, and that's it, right? Okay, they're going to subtract to give you the middle term this time. Which would subtract to give you 4?
Negative 7.
plus
3 and 7, right? You need a negative 4, so you need negative 7 and a positive 3. When they subtract, they're going to be different signs. You need to put this one as the sign of the biggest number to make sure it comes out. So if you had a negative 3, positive 7, it would have been a positive 3. So make sure you put the sign of this with the biggest number. So you have a positive 3 and a negative 7. Okay, another one. Okay, x squared plus 20x minus 20. I'm sorry, 21. 21. Because I was wanting to use the same numbers that I used here. Okay, so start with the x's, the ones that subtract to give you 20. And which one's positive?
21.
Positive 21 and a negative 1. Okay, let's do another one. X, I'm sorry. I was looking at one that had a y on it. X squared minus 3x minus 28. 2 times 14, 3, 4 times 7. Okay. Bless you.
Bless you.
Okay, subtract to give you 3 is your 4 and 7, right? Okay, positive 4 or positive 7? Positive 4 and negative 7. Sign the larger will give you negative 3. Okay, let's go ahead and do one that has different letters. Because they don't always have X's, so we need to get used to having other letters too. C to the 4th power plus C squared minus 56. How do you get 56? 1 times 56, 2 times what? 28. 3 won't go into it. Will 4 go into it? 4 times what? 14. 5 won't go into it. 6 won't go into it. 7 will. 7 times 8. Okay, that's all of them. So they need to subtract to give you a 1. There's no number there, so it's a 1. Okay, so we're going to use these, and it's going to be a positive 1, right? So the 8 will be positive, 7 will be negative. Okay, we need our first term here, though. What times itself will give you C4? C squared. And then minus 7 and a positive 8. Okay, let's do another one like that. B to the 4th power plus 5b squared minus 24. So you got 1 times 24, 2 times what? 2 times 12, 3 times 8, and 4 times 6. Which ones subtract to give you 5? 3 and 8, right. Positive 3 or positive 8?
Three.
We need a positive 5, so we need positive 8 and negative 3. Okay. What about our first term? What times itself gives you B4?
B squared.
B squared. And we need negative 3 and a positive 8. Okay? Okay. They're not going to all be that way. Some of them will have a common factor first. So let me show you one like that. Number 50 has a common factor, but I want to show you one that's like it. Instead of doing number 50, I'll just make one up like it then. Oh, let's do this one here. 4y to the 5th minus 4y to the 4th minus 4y to the 3rd power. Okay, it's not, doesn't have just an x squared in the front. So first look for greatest common factor. 4 and what? Y to the 3rd. Okay. Now this one, first term, y squared minus
Minus 1.
y
4y.
minus 1. Okay, after you factor out that greatest common factor, you still need to factor this part right here. Okay? The only way to get 1 is 1 times 1, right? Oh, that's not going to factor then. Because you can't do 1 minus 1 to get the middle term. Minus something to get that. So that one you're as far as you can go. But always check it to make sure and see if it will factor or not. Okay, let's do one. X to the 4th minus 21, x to the 3rd power minus 100 x squared. Okay. Do they have anything in common? X squared. First term,
X squared
x squared. Second,
minus 21x
minus 21x. Third,
minus 100.
minus 100. Okay, let's see if this will factor. It needs to subtract to give you 21. Let's see. 1 times 100. 2 times 50. Will 3 go into 100? No. 4 times 25. There it is. They'll subtract to give you 21, right? 4 and 25. We didn't even have to go any farther. Okay. The negative 21 would give you the negative in front of the 25 and a positive in front of the 4. Leave our x squared out here. It was already factored out. And this x squared gives us an x and an x. Now we have a positive 4 and a negative 25. And that's factored. Okay, let's do another one with something in common that will factor. W to the 4th power minus 8W3 plus 16W squared. What do they have in common? W squared. First term,
W squared.
second,
Minus 8W
minus 8W, third.
plus 16.
Okay, 1 times 16, 2 times 8, 4 times 4.
4 times 4.
You have to add to give you 8, so it's 4 and 4. We need a negative 8, right? So it's a negative 4 and negative 4. Leave our W squared in front of it. They'll both start with W. And it's going to be negative 4 and negative 4. Okay, when these look like this and these are exactly the same, you could write that as this squared, okay? That would be the answer right there. If you got this far, you could still count it right. This just simplifies it a little bit. It would already be factored here. That would be okay. Okay, I think that's about it. Some of them have negatives, but I don't think you have any that you have to factor a negative out. Like number 53 and 54. Some of those aren't in the right order, and you have to put them in order, but you don't have any on your homework like that. Let's go ahead and do one where you have to put it in order, just in case you come across one day. Like number 30, number 53, it starts with 30 plus 7x minus x squared. Okay, that's not in the order of x squared and then an x and a number, so you need to reorder it. So put this term first, negative x squared, and then plus 7x, then plus 30. And when this is negative, there's like 3 different ways you can factor it. You put the negative 1 out front that they have in common, and then you'll have x squared minus 7x minus 30. 1 times 30, 2 times 15, 3 times 10. There's the ones that subtract to give you 7. Negative 10, positive 3. So this one would come out to negative 1 in front, x plus 3, and x minus 10. That's one way it could be factored. Okay. You could do negative x times x, which would make it confusing. But you don't have to factor like that, so do you want me to even show you? Yeah?
No.
No, okay, we won't. All right, yeah, you don't have to do the negative, so let's not go into it. Okay, go ahead and start your homework then. Any questions?
Let's do it.